Okay, y'all, I'm adding this little bit of footage right here into the beginning of my video, and I made this video for Kathy and sent it to her, for Kathy Westerman at Bigfoot World, and she added a little bit of stuff to it of her own. So we worked on this together, and she added some of the footage where they actually found the tire at the tree structure and they found the hairs on the tire. So go to her YouTube here. I'll put the link in. Go to her YouTube and watch the video too, and you'll see my footage here that you're fixing to see. Plus you'll see her footage that she added into it, and she added some tree structure photos in too. They were all right there around where she found the hairs at, all the tree structures. So go check it out, and here soon I'm going to look at these. This might be the black vine moss that me and her are both thinking it probably is, but I'm going to check these out too, and I'll do that in a separate video because this first video was so long, and I'm going to look at those. And I have some game camera straps too that she had a game camera ripped off a tree, so I'm going to examine those with the microscope too and see if I see any hairs on it. But I put her hairs in an envelope. I actually took them out of the vial and put them in an envelope to help protect them and keep them from getting any kind of mold or anything growing on them. Keep them in a paper inside paper. Alright, and I ordered me some more slides and slide covers. So I'll show some of that too here soon in the next video. So I'll show that too, how to put the slides and the slide covers on. I'll show a little more forensic stuff like that here soon too. And again, thank you to Troy Palmer. Troy gave me the digital caliper for measurements, so I used that on the hairs here. That turned out to be a really good tool to have along with this video here. So just real quick here, this is my little area that I was working in right here for several evenings and the weekend, working on this video and the hair. But that's the hair sample there, and you'll see all that in here. Alright, and you'll see my results and everything in the video. Alright, so here we go. I'm going to show you the video now. This is all my footage here, so my viewers that haven't seen her video yet can see it. Plus I shared her video. Alright, so here we go. Okay, I got some hairs here I'm going to check out for Kathy. I'm going to look at these with my microscope. So I've actually got two microscopes now. So I'm going to look at it with the first with the microscope that I've been using, and then I have a new one. I have a new one here, so I'm going to start using that too now. Alright, so this is for Kathy Westerman. I've got these, and then I've got another set here that she thinks that could be moss, so I'm going to check it out. So this is for Bigfoot World, Cryptids and the Paranormal Researchers of Central Florida. For Kathy Westerman, Pamela, Amanda, James, Rebecca, all of them. Alright, so I'm going to put gloves on. I'm going to put gloves on to handle them, because I'm not sure if they use gloves or not. I don't remember right now if they did, but I'm going to go ahead and put gloves on to handle them. just in case they ever have them looked at. Okay, so before we get too far into this, let me go ahead and show you some things here that I've been learning, so I can do this and show you some things that we're looking for here. Alright, so I've been doing a lot of research on the hairs and what we're looking for here with the microscopes. Alright, so I'm trying to do as much forensic and scientific as I can doing this research. So that's one of the reasons to check out this hair like we're doing. Alright, so this talks about trichology being the scientific study of hair, and for it not only for it to benefit medication and cosmetics, but it can also be used for a forensic scientist, like looking at crime scenes, figuring out crime scenes. So even though we're not trying to like find a Bigfoot and find what he did wrong or anything like that, but just using this as part of our research. So being able to use the microscopes and learning what we're looking for here. So let me just read this little part here. The microscope investigation of hair is a big part of forensic investigations. Just like fingerprints, hair type is unique to each individual. We have soft, medium, hard, thick, coarse, straight, curly, damaged, colored hair with numerous combinations of all of the above. And hair also absorbs chemicals like metals from the surrounding environment when it grows. All these properties can be used in forensic science to identify individual persons. So I think that applies here as well too, because some of the different hairs that we found, you can see there's different coloring to them. There's some damage to them, but most of the time the damaged parts are like where they're caught on the barbed wire fence, and that's where I'm getting a lot of my hairs from. And like Kathy's hair here that she found, they found it hung up in a tire, in part of a damaged part of a tire. Another reason that makes the hair a valuable tool for forensic investigation is its durability. Hair is more resistant to decay than most other body tissues and fluids, thus remaining intact far longer than other evidence. This durability makes hair one of the most frequently found pieces of evidence at crime scenes. And the hairs are one of the pieces of evidence that we find when we're out doing our research. You have footprints, you have hairs, you have tree structures. We get audio, we get game camera footage, photos, things like that. So this the DNA is found in the root of the hairs, can be taken from the root of the hairs. So that makes the forensic part of this pretty valuable. Alright, so there's three types of hair analysis for forensic scientists. The morphology under the microscope, so using the microscope to study the hair scale pattern, its color, and the appearance of the medulla. So the scale pattern is what I'm seeing on some of these hairs. And I'll show you that here in a few minutes too. And then the color is what I'm seeing using the digital hand microscope that I've been using. We've been seeing the colors all along with that. And with the new microscope now, the compound microscope, I'm seeing the scale patterns. And now we're going to start looking for the medulla too. Alright, so I'm pretty new to this as far as with the compound microscope. I just now opened it up and started using it. And I've been doing a lot of research here to make sure what I'm looking for and what I'm doing. Okay, so I've been learning, like here it says, an experienced forensic scientist can easily tell if the hair specimen is from humans or from animals. So I've been learning that a lot too right here doing this research, and I've been learning the differences between the animal and human hairs. Alright, so I'm going to move on here. Okay, here's where they talk about the DNA from the cell of the root. Okay, so the medulla. I'm going to come back to this in a second. I want to go back here to another one. Okay, the medulla. The medulla is in the core of the hair. And I'm not going to read all this, but it has to do with moisture in the hair. The medulla holds the moisture in the hair. And the outside part of the hair called the cuticle. So the outside layer of the hair called the cuticle, it lets the moisture in to the and to get into the where the medulla. Okay, so this is just showing us the hair, as you can see on the outside, is called the cuticle, and that has the scales around the outside. And you'll see here in a few minutes they look different than on a human than they do on a Bigfoot or Sasquatch. Alright, and then you can see the medulla inside. Okay, so all hairs don't have the medulla. Okay, so the medulla here, the top one that they're showing here, the fragmentary or trace, and the discontinuous or broken, those are usually on human. And some of the human hairs don't have the medulla, and some of them do, and they can be broken up. Where you find them in some of the hairs, they can be broken up. And the continuous medulla is usually in the animals. From what I'm seeing here, the animals have the continuous medulla. Okay, so the human hairs, the medulla is usually 1/3 less of the hair diameter, where the animals are usually about half of the hair diameter. Alright, and then here's some of the animal hairs. So I've got a few of these that I've collected. But you can see the human one, they're close to high in the middle. It's got just a little bit of medulla in it, and it's broken up. And then I've got some other hairs here that we'll look at soon too. I've got deer, cattle, horse. I got possum and raccoon. I've got deer. Oh, I already said deer. I've got quite a few. They've got brown bear on here, but we have black bear here in Florida. So that's some of the hairs and what they would look like under the microscope. Alright, and then the human hairs. Like this is showing a human whisker hair having a broken up medulla. Yeah, this is showing some of the different medullas, how they would look in in different hairs. Okay, so studying some of this, I'm learning about the differences in the fibers and the hairs. And the fibers is usually what we're finding usually in fibers is usually plant, like the cabbage palms. The cabbage palms have a fiber that looks similar to hair. The palmetto ferns, they have some fibers that look similar to hairs. There's a type of it's some type of mushroom. I found the actual name for it one time before, and I've been trying to find it again. But it looks like hair. It looks like long black hair, but it's actually a vegetation, and it can really fool you sometimes. And I did some videos on it when I first started doing this, thinking it was hair, and I come to find out that it was actually just some. It's not called a vine, but I've been calling it a black vine moss. It's not really a vine. It kind of grows out in a thin vine, but it's black, and it's got to do with some type of mushroom. Anyway, I'm just trying to show you a little bit of stuff here that we're looking for here with the hairs. Okay, so this is from David Pilati's video from when him and Scott Carpenter and Dr. Melba Ketchum and all the scientists that she had on her team, they did the DNA study, the Sasquatch DNA study. So this shows you what the human hairs look like, and this shows you the scale pattern on the human hairs, the scale pattern on the human hairs, and the scale pattern on the Bigfoot or Sasquatch. So you'll see that coming up here too on some of the hairs we're looking at. That big huge scale pattern like that. And then also here they're showing the differences in the sizes of the hairs. The Sasquatch hairs are a lot thicker than ours. Alright, so I'm just gonna film myself doing this, and then I'll send the video footage to Kathy also. Okay, so I'm going to hit record on the laptop. Okay, so we're recording on the laptop. So these are definitely hairs. Okay, so these are the hairs off of the tire. So I can tell right away these do not look like the black bear hairs that I've collected in the past here. And you'll see mine in just a little bit. So you can see all the colors in these. So the digital handheld microscope, it shows you all the colors here. It shows you the you can see them magnified. You can see the colors. You can see some of them have clear in them. Some of them have brownish. There's a lot of brownish, reddish brown in this here, and there's a little bit of clear in it. Some greenish colors. So there's over 2 minutes here of hair right here for you to look at and see what we got here. The end here you can root, and then it's got a whitish look to the hair as it comes off of the root, and then it has some greenish and some more whitish. I don't think it's clear, I think it's white on it. On this one here it's whitish, and then it goes into the green, and then you can see some whitish, and then it turns like a brownish color, and then black. When I'm looking at these hairs, I'll look for the root like that. And then I'll also look for ends like these. Like there's a couple ends here. These don't look like they've been cut, but they look like they could have either been broke or just maybe the way they end, kind of fraying a little bit. Okay, I'm going to stop this and give it a rest a few minutes. And then I'll do a little bit more. So this microscope, it'll after just a little bit, it'll get hot and it'll freeze up. So I'm going to turn it off and give it a minute. And then I'll look at this again with this microscope. And I'm videoing a pretty good bit of this on the laptop. So I'll be able to add this footage in. And I'm going to send all this footage to Kathy as well, so she can use it too in her videos. And I'm going to compare this to some black bear hairs that I have found. And we'll look at these two also on your microscope. And this should show if it has a medulla or not. Okay, so I'll let the microscope rest a minute, so I'm going to plug it back in and look at this again. Okay, so we're taking another look at these with this digital handheld microscope. So you can see right here in the center there's a clear hair. There's a long clear hair right there in the middle. And then you can see all the greenish colors, the reddish colors, the blacks. Right here you'll see there's 3 roots here that have clear hairs or whitish hairs also attached to them. Right there in the center there's some couple of broken pieces, probably from being hung up on the tire and breaking. Here's the hair that has reddish color root, and then it's got either clear or white, and then some reddish in it, and then some more clear or white. Okay, so I want to look at these here also. Okay, so I want to take a look at these. This is what I'm looking at here. So again, I think these shorter ones are hog, and that mass of hair there, I think that's black bear. So just trying to kind of compare it. It looks similar to those. So we'll take a look at it here with the microscope. Okay, these are black bear hairs that I took off a barbed wire fence, and I found the bear footprints close to them, and it was at a spot where a lot of animals were crossing under a fence. All right, so you can tell a real big difference here with these and the ones of Kathy's that I just showed. Then you'll see some plant fibers here on the right here towards the bottom that got mixed in with the hairs. Okay, so for some comparisons here, I'm going to add in some human hair. So this is my daughter Robin. This is her hair. These human hairs here are showing a little bit of different colors. Like you'll see one hair is white or gray. That's probably actually gray. And then there's a couple in here too that are gray that have a root on them. Here's an end of a hair, and then you'll see another gray hair with the root on it, a different one. Here's some more human hair for more comparisons. These are from Winnett. So these are some of Winnett's hairs. Doing these comparisons like this, the hairs that were found on the tire, they look a lot more like these human hairs than they do the black bear hairs. They match these human hairs a lot more, except for one thing here I'll show you. Look at the comparison. So these are Winnett's hairs, human hair. These are Robin's hair, human hair. And these are the hairs that were found on the tire. Under the digital handheld microscope, they look very similar. But looking at them here like this, you can tell that the hairs that were found on the tire are a lot thicker. They're a lot thicker than the human hairs. So now we're going to take some measurements. Alright, so I just measured the human hairs here from Robin, and they were 0.07 millimeter. First I'm measuring the human hair is 0.07 millimeter with the digital caliper. So this is a calibrated tool here for digital measurements. Troy Palmer gave this to me for this reason here, for measuring hairs. Now the hair from the tire with the digital caliper, and I measured two different hairs just to check my measurements. Both of them come out 0.11 millimeter. So also measuring the black bear hairs, I measured two different ones here. The first one came up 0.13 millimeter, and then the second one showed 0.10 millimeter. I panned over here with the microscope just to show you the readings here on this, on the caliper, because this was a little too hard to try to set up and film with the camera while doing all this. Alright, so now we're going to use the new microscope, and this actually has an attachment here where you can film it. You can hook your phone up there and video, take picture or video. Alright, so I'm going to get these set up. Okay, I'm going to show you some forensic science here with these hairs. So let me get this set up here so you can see. Okay, so I'll take these slides when I take them out of the box. I clean them up good with the lens wipe to make sure they're good and clean and clear, nothing on them. So what I want to show you here is I took some clear nail polish, and I'll show you this one and then I'll show you how I did it. So I took and put it on two places here, the clear nail polish, because one of these turned out really good, the other one didn't work. And I'll do another one here and show you. But this is what's called making a cast. So just like when I make a cast of a footprint, or when any of us make a cast of a footprint, then this is basically the same thing. We're putting this clear nail polish on here, and then we're sticking the hair into it and letting it sit there about 15 minutes, and then we pull the hair out, and it's leaving an imprint in the clear nail polish, just like it would when we're pouring the plaster into a footprint, and then letting it sit there and dry, and it's making an imprint of the footprint, a cast of the footprint. So this is doing the same thing. This is making a cast of the hair. So and it's showing you what the it's leaving you what the hair looks like on the in the liquid it's showing you what the hair looks like in the clear nail polish. And then once it dries, so you give it about 15 minutes with the hair sitting in it, and then you pull the hair out. It gives enough time to dry to make a good impression of the hair, and then it'll show you the scales on the hair, where the on the outside of the hair, the cuticle. It'll give you an impression of the scales, and then you put this onto the microscope and look at it. Alright, so I'm going to do that here. I'm going to take the clear nail polish I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to do 2 parts here. So these are plenty wide enough. You can do a couple of these on here. Okay, and then we're going to we'll take one of these hairs. So I'm going to take one of these hairs and cut it. And lay it down in the clear nail polish. Okay, I got one really good one here. The other one, it might work, it's in there. So I got 2 of them here. So I was trying to put something behind it, see if that would help, where you could see it, but I don't know if it will. Anyway, I got 2 here. This one looks like it's going to be really good. And then that one's in the polish too. Okay, so I'm going to let this set for 15 minutes and then I'll pull the hairs out. Okay, so now I'm going to show you my first one here I did. I'm going to show you this. I actually had 2 hairs. I actually got 2 hairs in that one because I was trying to get it right, and the hair I put on this one didn't turn out. So I'm going to show you what this looks like now in the compound microscope. This is the first cast that I did, and you can see the hair. You can see how it left the outline of the hair and the scales on it. Okay, so 15 minutes is up. So I just took the 2 hairs out. So they're right here. So I just took the 2 hairs out. And then we'll be able to look at them under the microscope. The cast itself where the hairs were. Okay, here's the hair cast that we just did, the one I just showed you. This is the hairs off of the tire. The scales on the hair from the cuticles show up really good here. You can see how they're really large and rough looking. So that's what it looks like to me, like that right there. From David Pilates, his Bigfoot class. His class number 11 about the DNA. He talks about the hairs So here it is again, the one we just looked at. So you can compare them to what I just showed you from David Pilates. Alright, and then I'm going to show you some more here. Some more things here. Now to show comparisons, we'll show Wynette's hair in a cast I made with the nail polish. A second comparison with Robin's human hair in the cast. And now the black bear hair in the cast. So I'm just trying to adjust it a little and get the best view here so you can see it good. Okay, so the medulla here, the top one that they're showing here, the fragmentary or trace, and the discontinuous or broken, those are usually on human. And some of the human hairs don't have the medulla, and some of them do, and they can be broken up. Where you find them in some of the hairs, they can be broken up. And the continuous medulla is usually in the animals. Now the hair from the tires, so we're going to look for the medulla. So this one has a medulla. This one appears to have a medulla. Here's a second hair from the tire, and it also appears to have a medulla. It looks like a continuous medulla. So this hair from the tire, the medulla is matching what Scott Carpenter and David Pilates is showing. It's showing a continuous medulla, and that's matches up to what they show. Now the human hairs. Wynette's shows a very little medulla, almost none. And then Robin's, I don't see any in hers. I don't see any medulla in her hair at all, at least in these samples here. And then in my black bear hair sample here, I'm not seeing a medulla at all in it. Now I'm going to show you the hairs with the compound microscope, just looking at them with the light from above shining down on them. So you're seeing the outside of the cuticle, the outside of the hair here. Now here's the hairs from the tire, a couple different samples, and we're going to look at them with the compound microscope, looking down on them with the light. So on these, the scales really stand out on these. Okay, so what I'm seeing with these hairs, with the one thing with the medulla here, the continuous medulla is supposed to be in the animals, and my bear hair samples are not showing continuous medulla. And the Sasquatch samples that I believe these are Sasquatch samples, they're matching what David Pilates and Scott Carpenter showed, and what Dr. Melba Ketchum and their people, they sent the hairs off to a hair and fiber specialist before sending them to the DNA study to be DNA tested. So I believe that these hairs that we're seeing here that came from the tire, I believe they are Sasquatch. So I believe they are what David Pilates is showing here in his Bigfoot class, and what Scott Carpenter shows here in his book on the DNA study. Because I like showing my resources here too, so this is showing you some of my resources. Okay, and this is the part out of Scott Carpenter's book where he's showing and talking about the hairs and the DNA study with the hairs and everything they went through, getting them tested and getting them studied and doing the DNA results. Okay, and I also use this also, the Sasquatch Field Guide from Dr. Jeff Meldrum, but my findings are coming up a little different than what he shows. He's showing the suspected Sasquatch hair to not have a medulla, but then he's also showing a bear to have a medulla, and my bear samples are not showing a medulla. And I also want to show you this. You can see I googled the black bear hairs in the microscope, and you have to be careful when you're looking at Google stuff like this, because you'll see a lot of these are different. Like it'll show black bear, it'll show bear black, and it shows Alaska. That one shows Alaska. This one's showing a medulla. That one's showing a medulla. And then some of them, like this one's showing hair of a black bear, but it's only showing the outside scales of the cuticle. And then you have to be careful because a lot of these are not even showing actual black bear. A lot of these are showing polar bears. A lot of these are human hairs. When you look at these, you got to really read and look closely. Because see, like you see here, they're showing polar bears. This is human hair. So you have to really watch on these when you're doing a Google search. And see, like this is just saying hair under a microscope. So if you do a Google search, you'll have to really watch and look close at what you're looking at here. And then look, this is showing what I just showed you from the Dr. Jeff Meldrum's field guide on the hairs. So none of these really show very good as far as the hairs, as far as the black bear. I just wanted to show you here some of my resources. Okay, I did quite a few studies here too as I started this video on forensics and hair forensics, things on the medulla, the cuticle, the follicle, and the root, learning all the different things here, so I could make this a lot better, more scientific video. So I did research on fibers, looking up fiber and hair comparisons. Alright, so I like showing the resources that I use. So David Pilates, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, Scott Carpenter, a bunch of different videos that I've watched and studied online, on the internet, on YouTube. Okay, so here's my findings using different sources here: a compound microscope, a digital handheld microscope, the digital calipers for measurement, and everything I'm seeing shows me this is Sasquatch hairs. Forensically studying these hairs that came off the tire. Alright, I wanted to show you all this. I didn't know if you noticed, but when I was showing you these earlier, the casts, which I realized that just turning them just right in the light, you can see it. It wasn't really doing any good holding it, trying to hold something behind it. It was turning it in the light just right. But I don't know if you noticed, when I was talking about the clear nail polish, showing that to you. I work in construction, and I kept trying to call this liquid nails. every time I talked about the nail polish, the clear nail polish. I was trying to get used to saying the clear nail polish. Every time I picked it up, I kept wanting to say liquid nails. It's just because I work in construction. So that's just a little something I thought y'all would get a kick out of. Like a little blooper there.